Hi, my name's Leah. I'm the Quality and Training Manager at Kids Inc. Nurseries, and today I'm going to be talking to you about children's wellbeing. So, an introduction to this, your child's development is of great importance, and we want to work with you to ensure that you have the best outcomes for your children. So, today we're going to be looking at exploring everyday behaviours that support wellbeing in children. We're going to be recognising different behaviours in play. We're going to identify signs where your child may be struggling. We're going to discover techniques and strategies to support you as parents or guardians, because that's the most important thing. You also may see a small logo when you're going through our presentation today, and that highlights suggestions for activities that you can try at home. We'll try and give you as much as we can, which you can take away for your children at home. So, emotional well-being, we're going to start off with, which includes emotional regulation, social connection, physical health, self-esteem, play, sleep, and safety. So, it's really about how your children think, feel, learn, and grow. So it's important to name those emotions in as many situations as possible for children to be able to feel heard. So, for example, if a child starts to get frustrated, you can be like, "Oh, I can see that you're getting cross. How can we support you?" "Oh, wow, that was a surprise." So you're kind of labeling those kind of feelings at the same time. Um, Try and stay calm through those times, which we can appreciate can be quite challenging, especially if they're sharing sort of quite a strong emotion. It will really support their co-regulation. So we can say things like, "I'm here, you're safe, let's breathe together," at the children's own pace. Emotionally rich environments are really important for children of all ages. We mostly use these through the use of books, simple stories, and songs, which can be really useful. For example, the Colour Monster book is really great. Tom Percival's also written a selection of books around big, bright feelings, if you may have heard of those before. Um, so some examples there for you to do at home is about giving warnings around transitions, because transitions can be a really triggering time for children. So, for example, in 2 minutes, we're going to get ready for lunch. You can also use visuals, like sand timers are really great to show a visual of then how long 2 minutes would be. You can have a nice cozy area potentially somewhere in your home where your child can sort of go and just have a bit of quiet time, maybe with a story, a fidget toy, a cuddly toy that they feel connected with. You may have watched one of our other sessions on the birth to five, which is the guidance that we use to support children's development. Within that section, there's a personal, social, emotional development, which links to making relationships, sense of self, and understanding emotions. So we really support that in everything that we do with the children's development and their emotional well-being. Social well-being, we're going to look at now, which supports children to navigate their world and understand their interactions. They come across many different people in their life, as I'm sure that you know. So it's really important that we can support them as best as we can through that. Some good examples linked to things like turn-taking games. We also do games like peekaboo, simple board games, which will support the children to feel safe, connected, and confident, which is really important for their foundation for healthy relationships later on in life. You can use a lot of language when you're talking about this. So, for example, if a child's able to share something with you at home, you can say, "Oh, thank you. That was so kind. You shared a block with me. That's made me feel happy." So you can use those kind of language in the things that you're doing. Some ideas that you could do for home is all about that one-to-one connection. So maybe having sort of 5 to 10 minutes of special time with your child and experiencing opportunities that you can sort of do things together will really support that connection. So, for example, sharing a story is a really intimate moment, and activities in small groups where you can start to incorporate the sharing and turn taking as well. And then we've got physical well-being, which includes physical activity, eating a balanced and nutritious meal, getting the recommended hours of sleep, and having safe environment in which to do all of these things. So it is really important to establish sort of a calm sleep routine, which is consistent within your environment for the children. It supports their bodies to grow, repair, and function properly. Um, we also suggest nutrition is the connection time between you and your children. So if you can, as best as possible, have meal times together that are not rushed, where you can have that communication and language development. Um, Also, obviously, being physical, we all know supports our health as much as possible. So, giving lots of movement throughout the day is really, really good. Even simple activities like them helping you with the washing. Maybe you could do some pieces outdoors, some outdoor racing, for example. Um, some ideas that you can do from home is having family meals together where you can all eat the same thing and at the same time, and encouraging healthy sort of active play outdoors, being outside as much as possible, getting that fresh air, maybe going for some walks, doing some yoga, for example. So physical well-being is really important. So we've talked about the emotional well-being, social well-being, and physical well-being, which all interlink together to support children's well-being as a whole. So we're going to look now at wellbeing through play, so you can understand a bit about what that looks like linked to each age range, dependent on your age of your child and how you're looking to support them at this time. So we've talked about emotional wellbeing, social and physical. So for babies, for example, 0 to 12 months, things that you can do are related to tummy time, reaching for toys, those nice peekaboo games really help to build their muscles and coordination. It also supports that emotional connection with you and your child as well. As you know, they love faces, voices, those different expressions, and that stimulation that they can get from all those opportunities and that sensory exploration. Babies will show you cues when they need sort of comfort for maybe milk, changing a nappy. They might be a bit overstimulated and start to show some frustration through sort of crying or turning their head and maybe some arching of their back. So those are sort of some bits just to look out for if they're getting quite frustrated. As we move on to toddlers, which we usually say is between 1 to 3 years, we have building blocks and sharing stories and songs. Those are really good for that coordination and problem solving skills. Play, simple pretend play is also great as they're getting into that role play, which supports their social interaction and their imagination. Some cues that toddlers might show, they might start to withdraw from the activity or refusing to play. It might be that they just need some time just to process what's going on, or they might be really sort of hyperactive and quite restless and have difficulty focusing. So those are some things to look out for. Then when you get to preschool age children, which is 3 to 5 years, the imagination play comes out a lot more. They have a lot more confidence to be able to communicate with you and share their ideas. Again, problem solving is really great through construction, lots of different types of materials that they can build and connect. Really encourages that teamwork and communication. Asking those kind of open questions, so how are you going to build that? What do you need? And if they're struggling to kind of connect things, okay, what could we do differently? They might show some triggers similar to toddler age, but they also might have quite high emotional outbursts and maybe trouble following instructions. And they might show quite strong anger or frustration over a small problem. So those are sort of some triggers that you could potentially look out for with sort of links to when you're playing with the children. So moving on, some signs of stress, which we previously just mentioned slightly. So when they form close relationships with their reliable adults, sometimes you might be the person that they might let out those emotions with because they feel safe around you. And that's a positive thing. And that means that you will know how to sort of support them as best as you can. Children don't misbehave. It's just how they communicate their needs. They can get really stressed and really overwhelmed. Maybe some behaviors they might show are sort of hitting or biting, crying quickly, refusing to do things, clinginess and running away. So this is a suggestion. When these types of things happen, we need to think of the word halt, which is for hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. So we want you to think of those 4 pieces first and think, oh, could it be one of those? And then start to think of the why behind it. And we're hoping then that can help de-stress the situation and we can try and solve it. So those are the pieces that we would like to think about. Incorporated, obviously, in that are modern day pressures, which we all know can affect our busy schedules that we have. We also now know with kind of the times that we're in, a lot of screen time, social media, having high expectations can really affect young children's well-being, even if they don't quite understand yet what's going on. It can make them feel stressed, anxious, and frustrated, affect their sleep, eating habits, and energy levels. So we want to not limit time for play, social interaction, and physical activity. We really want to push those things which are really vital for them. And these things can then influence their emotional development and really make it hard to express to you how they're feeling. So talking about the things that we've covered so far, we really want to create those calm routines, encouraging that playtime, spending quality time together where we can really help the children feel safe and secure and feel supported to then open up and kind of share their emotions in our busy world. So we want to share some calming strategies with you today. We can discuss, obviously we've got lots of other pieces to go on to, but things like offering choice to children. Sometimes too much choice can cause problems, but maybe just two things. For example, would you like a blue cup or a red cup today? In that moment, reduce your language, because too many questions at once can then confuse them as well. One thing is, an idea is to use connection first. So come and sit down with me. Let's have a bit of time just to sit together, and then you can start to unpick those feelings. Maybe a sensory reset might be useful. So blowing bubbles, pushing a wall, and just sort of slow breathing. Maybe some kind of strokes or hand holding as well. And talk in a slow way, giving pauses to sort of let the child have time to respond to you. Sometimes finding a distraction helps. If you know they've got a favorite toy or a favorite book, just a favorite place to sit and just have some calm time. Even maybe it's going outside and getting some fresh air. That's something we'd also suggest. Another thing is to not tell them to shush or say that they're fine. And actually, we want you to identify that emotion. Oh, I can see that you're crying. I can see that you're frustrated. And then you can start to, it's just validifying, I think, their emotions so then they feel heard. If you are struggling with some of these things at home at the moment, please don't be afraid to speak with your key person, because they'll be able to, obviously they know your child in depth as well, so they'll be able to give you a few more ideas on how to sort of support those emotions. So please make sure you reach out to your key person or member of the nursery team. One of our techniques that we use a lot is a book called The Colour Monster. And this book's really great, and it can be useful for parents at home. It basically helps the children to identify a different feeling linked to a colour. Because once they've been able to identify that all the feelings are different, then we can progress in teaching them actually what those emotions mean. So it gets them to sort of understand it at stages and understand that it's okay to be kind of mixed up, and that's understandable. They've got a lot of emotions, and then they'll hopefully be able to communicate to you which emotion that they're feeling to support their self-regulation skills. We can then develop that further off of the colours and into actually, what does happy mean? What does that look like for you? How do you feel when you're happy? And go from there, for example. So this book we would recommend. Your nursery may also have a copy that you can borrow at home, so please do ask them. Some other techniques that we use is around solution-focused language. So this is where we don't want to be problem-focused. We want to keep the conversation more positive to enable to build problem-solving skills. So, for example, problem-focused language focuses on the problem itself. So, why can't you stop spilling your drink? Versus solution-focused language, which supports what can be done to fix or find a solution. For example, how can we make sure your drink stays on the table? Solution-focused language is more effective in offering those explanations for children. So another example is if children start to climb and we say, get down from the table. That's quite problem-focused. We want to spin it to, let's get down from the table as you might fall and bump your head. Shall we go and climb in the garden? You're kind of then changing their mindset and getting them to do climbing in more of a safer way, whereas climbing on the tables, obviously, we don't want to necessarily encourage that. Another example could be around sort of where we say be careful quite a lot. That could be quite problem focused and kind of cause some anxieties. So we might want to say, like, what might we need to think about before you try that obstacle course or before you climb that tree? Because then we can start thinking about that safety and get them to understand that before they partake in something. We can put our anxieties onto children, which is easily done. So we really kind of want to encourage the children to have a think before they do something and just educate them as much as possible and try not to say those problem focused words. It will really build confidence and independence. So another example of how you can do this at home is using cutlery. So supporting the children with problem solving. So what are we going to use to be able to cut your food up? How are we going to pick those foods up, for example? Another thing that we do is we build resilience and as many opportunities as possible with the children. So it gets them to understand how they can cope with challenges, managing their emotions, and really feeling confident to solve those problems. So we want to encourage problem solving. So, what could we do if the tower falls? Making sure we're praising the effort rather than just the success. So, oh, you've worked so hard on that puzzle, rather than just kind of saying, oh, well done. We only want to be specific in the praise that we're giving. Allowing children to experience those small setbacks. Like, it's okay if we haven't been able to finish that today. Let's do that tomorrow, so they can understand that setbacks are normal and they are okay. Simple routines like getting dressed, tidying up, gives them that sense of control, but also that sense of achievement when they finished, and really strengthens their ability to sort of bounce back from difficulties. And of course, then you're there to help support them if they do get frustrated. But remember just to not put too much pressure on them. Let them just take their time. We don't want to rush them out the door, quick, we've got to get your coat on, we'll just do it for you. Like, actually just let them take their time to be able to do that zip or put that jacket on. So talking them through the process is a really good idea to do at home. So if they've got a jacket, understanding that which arm goes in which hole, and letting them kind of figure that out for themselves. So we also have some parent guides at the nursery, which the nursery can share with you upon request. You can speak to a nursery manager or a key person. We have a selection of parent guides. The three, for example, we've got on here is how to talk to your child, helping your child understand their emotions, and also activities to share and talk about at home. We also have ones on being on the same level as your child, supporting a healthy, balanced, and nutritious diet as well, and just generally playing with your child. So we do have a lot of parent guides to support and educate on different topics, which we hope you find useful. Thank you very much. That is the end of today's session. We hope you have enjoyed it. If this does prompt any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to your key person or nursery manager, and we will be able to help you. And I hope that you found the tools useful today. And thank you very much again.